And I remember when that happened, how the theater was absolutely silent. I was like, okay, either this is working or I have royally messed up.
Quiet on set.
Marker.
Action.
Hi, my name is Jacob Harding, and I am the host of the Professional Amateur Podcast. This is our very first episode. It's kind of an episode 0, truly just kind of introducing you guys to me, what the podcast is about, and why I'm making it. Please bear with me as we do this. This is not usual territory for me. It's my first time ever hosting a podcast, and previously I've only ever been a guest on one podcast. Shout out to Brett Gaffney and The Word Before We Leave, who's providing us this gear today. A little bit about who I am. I am a writer, director, producer based in LA. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, and I've been making films for almost 14 years now, actually over 14 years now. I started making films when I was 12 years old with my childhood best friend, Chase Dalton. I had gotten a new iPod 4. It was the first iPod with a camera, and we made a little short film called Fat Man. It was a parody of Batman. It's very bad. You can still find it on the internet sometimes, but I don't suggest you go scour for it. After making that film, it took me about a year to realize that I really loved this to the point where I want to dedicate my whole life to it. The story I usually tell people is that I was showing my mom one of my short films where she went, "Wow, Jake, this is so good. You know, you could do this for the rest of your life." And I went, "Yeah, you know what? I will." I have told that story to so many people. I don't actually know if it's true anymore. I think it is. I'll have to ask my mom. Maybe I'll interview her someday and she'll tell me if that actually happened or not. But whatever version of truth is in that story, I genuinely quit everything else I was doing. I did nothing else. I quit all sports I was in. The only thing I did was film or theater. And that's pretty much been my life ever since. I've directed many short films over these last 14, 15 years and one feature film, but I don't really consider those a part of my professional career. In terms of my professional career, I started that around 2019. And since 2019, I've directed 3 short films, 7 music videos, multiple comedy sketches, and one feature film that is currently in post-production titled Paralysis. You've maybe heard of it if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast. So why am I making this podcast? There's a couple different reasons I'm making this podcast. One, I'm a yapper. If you know me personally, one of the things I talk about the most is the filmmaking process, and particularly a lot of like my filmmaking process. I love giving advice to younger filmmakers or older filmmakers who are looking to try to do something new with their careers, and they come to me and ask me different questions. And from that especially comes one of the main points I'm doing this, is because growing up, I had mentors and stuff, but no one that was really able to pour into me at a level that I wanted to get to. I didn't really have those types of mentorships until I was older, until I was an adult. So that's also one of the reasons I'm launching this podcast, because I want to be that figure for you guys, if that's what you're interested in. Or you might just have an interest in filmmaking in general or my career, and so you want to listen in. The other reason I'm doing it is because I want to start this podcast before Paralysis releases. So Paralysis is my feature film. I think it's going to be good. I really hope it's going to be good. And I like the idea of you guys coming along my journey before it's out there, you know, before anyone knows about it, while you can hear about my struggles with post-production, the film in general, and be with me as it comes out. And if it is a great success, then be a part of that. Or if it's an utter failure, which I don't think it will be, also be a part of that and see the learning lessons I take away from that. And I think that that is really valuable. I think that that's something that not a lot of people have a chance to witness and listen to. That is something I feel like I can bring to the table and to you guys. So whether you're just interested in my career, want to learn more about filmmaking, or you are looking for that mentorship role, then you come to the right place, and I hope to be able to provide you guys with the best advice that I can possibly bring to you. I will state first that I am 26 years old. I am not necessarily a super successful filmmaker. Technically, I am an unemployed director in every sense of the word, besides when I hire myself. So I will say, take all of my advice with a grain of salt. Obviously, with my feature film coming out, that does add the tiniest bit of credibility to what I'm going to say, but the film's not even out yet, so it might not mean anything when it's actually out there. But I still feel like I have something to say, and I want to say it. Now, why the title Professional Amateur? Professional Amateur is something that I used to call myself in high school when I was making films with my friends. Shout out to the original World Hit Studios gang. I always felt like in high school that I wasn't an amateur filmmaker, but I wasn't a professional. I was somewhere in the middle, and so I called myself a professional amateur. I still feel like that's the case. I don't really think that's changed a ton. Obviously, I am working on much more professional sets. I think, once my feature film is out there, you could say I am definitely more in the professional side than the amateur side, but really not until I'm hired by some big company to direct will I really feel like I am in the professional side of it. So that's kind of where the title comes from. I also think it's just a good title for a podcast, and I think it fits the theme of what we'll be doing. What will we be doing is probably what you're asking from there. We're going to be recording 2 types of episodes. So there's going to be solo episodes like this, where I specifically talk about a topic. Like, for example, I think episode 3 is going to be about screenwriting, but I'll also have episodes on directing, producing, and then different specific episodes within those. I might also break down different films of my career, maybe potentially eventually other films as well, but for now we're keeping it very focused on this type of filmmaking, this indie filmmaking, you going out and making your own films type of stuff, both from what advice I can give you for that and from what I have done and how you can learn from that. So that's kind of the goal right now. The second episode type will be with guests, like our second episode, which might release pretty closely to this one, will be with my roommates, who are the people I collaborate with the most, who have made their own films as well, and kind of talking about what that relationship's like. And I will be mostly focusing on like people I've collaborated with, so that you guys can see what that collaboration relationship is like for a director to a DP, or a director to a producer, director to an editor, director to AD, these different things where you can kind of pick up on how these relationships are supposed to be on set, or at least how I have treated them on set. Because collaboration to me is the most important part of filmmaking. It's not just a one-man army. It is a team that puts all their most important talents into one thing. I might also interview people that are not my collaborators. I'll probably bring on some of my mentors and other filmmakers that I'm close friends with to kind of give you their side of things, and then different viewpoints from them too. Like I said, the whole goal with this podcast is to essentially just educate the next generation and give you guys perspective that you might not usually have, because I think we shouldn't gatekeep things. And I'm not one to gatekeep. Obviously, there's certain information I can't let out. Like, I can't tell you exactly how we got certain investments for Paralysis. I can't give you their names, stuff like that. But I can go about how we went about finding our investors and stuff like that. And that'll be a whole separate episode eventually. And so, I want to be that role to you that I didn't get to have. And hopefully that leads to you being your own successful filmmaker, or at least your own successful artist. Because I think this podcast will not just be about only filmmaking. I plan on bringing on the musicians I've done music videos for, and other artists I've just encountered while in LA or Kansas City, and just getting all kinds of different perspectives to bring to you guys. So yeah, that's kind of the goal and why I've decided to launch this podcast and the direction I want to take it. So with this, I hope that it empowers you to chase your own dreams and not let go of those things, to pursue your own artistic talents, and hopefully find your own footing in this, whether it's based on what I say, or what I say encourages you to seek out different aspects and different ideas of filmmaking. So with that, I'm going to get kind of into some questions that I have listed on Instagram. One thing about this podcast I want to do is I want to make sure it's always interacting with you guys. So if you want to stay up to date with this podcast, be able to answer these questions I put up there, go follow me on Instagram at _Jacob__Harding_. I know there's a lot of underscores. That's just the best way I could get it to say my name. I will be honest, if you follow even one person that follows me, if you look up Jacob Harding on Instagram, I probably one of the first people to pop up. It's me in an orange shirt doing that. If you're not watching the podcast, you have no idea what I just did, but it's And by the way, this podcast is also filmed. So if you want to watch it, you can, or you can listen to it. Either way works. You'll hear my voice either way. With that, we're going to move on to the questions for the episode and kind of break some of those down. So the first question for this episode comes from my good friend, Jesse Klein. And he asks, who's a famous actor or director you want to collaborate with? First off, and this is the first thing you learn about me as a director, I don't co-direct. I have had lots of debates with people about this. I don't think co-directing makes sense unless you are working on a $100 million movie where there's just so much going on. I think a director's vision really only makes sense to be shared by one person and one person alone. But I know there's lots of good co-directors. I just don't think it makes much sense for me. So I'm changing the question a little bit to what directors I'd like to go get coffee with, and then I'll tell you about the actors I'd like to go actually collaborate with. So the first director I want to bring up is Christopher Nolan, obviously one of the best in the biz. One of the reasons I'd like to talk to him, besides just his insane career, is actually to ask him about just personal life. He is one of the only hugely successful directors that I know that has a family and has kept his family together through all the chaos. And he's the most successful director working today. He's married to Emma Thomas still, and they have multiple children together. And Emma Thomas is his producer. So they are constantly working together and able to still manage their family. So honestly, I'd love to know advice on that, because I know that soon I will enter into that same kind of world of building a family. And I would love to hear his advice on how to navigate that with this insane film industry. I want to talk to Damien Chazelle. Damien Chazelle is one of my favorite filmmakers. La La Land is one of the most important films to me. I also love a lot of his other films. So I'd love to just talk to him and talk about his sudden rise in popularity and how he's navigated all that. And then the final directors I want to mention, just because I feel like it would be insane to just be in the same room as them and be able to talk to them, is Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg. Obviously, they are two of the best living filmmakers today. They are two of the best filmmakers of all time, and they've had very long, luxurious careers and making all types of different films. So I would love to talk to them and just learn from the masters. I definitely think that they are two of the only true masters living today. Another one that I didn't write down but just popped in my head is Denis Villeneuve. I love all his films. There's not been one of his films that I disliked, and so I'd love to just talk to him because I think he's a visionary, and I'd love to just take any advice from him I possibly can. In terms of actors I'd like to collaborate with, I went a little different with this. I chose 3 actors who I actually already have roles planned for, and I would love to have them play those roles. So if you know any of these people and you want to put us in contact, I'd love to pitch them a film. The first one is Gabriel LaBelle. I think he's super talented, and I would love to put him in my next feature. Michael Shannon, I have a role for him in an upcoming feature I'd love to make that I think he'd be perfect for. And Justin Theroux. Justin Theroux's role in one of my features is definitely the most far out film for me, but I think he'd be perfect for it. So if you know any of these guys, please slide into my DMs and connect us, because then I'll love you forever. My lovely little sister, Hope Strelo, asked this next question. She's also a very talented musician in the Christian music industry in Nashville. And she asks, what are your 3 biggest regrets in filmmaking? The first one that popped up in my head is not networking enough. I have struggled with networking a lot. I still struggle with networking a lot. Even in LA, where it feels like it's the best place to network, it still feels a lot like you are a small fish in a big pond. And it's hard to exactly navigate where you want to go, especially because most people you're navigating with also want to go where you want to go. They're not going to give you a ton of help because that's where they want to head to also. And that doesn't make sense for certain scenarios, but it can be difficult. And I had a phase in my life where I was networking a lot. And I think that was very beneficial when I was. It's kind of was the development stages of paralysis is where I was really networking a lot. I was in a couple of film festivals that introduced me to a lot of different filmmakers. And I found that to be one of the most beneficial times of my career. So it's funny that I say that and I still struggle with it today. So that's one of my big regrets, is not networking, because I do feel like maybe if I had networked better, both past tense and currently, maybe I'd be further along. I don't know, but that's just something that I feel like if I can give you any advice, network, get coffee with people, get as many meetings as you can, because you don't know how these people might help you out. The second biggest regret is not pushing for myself enough, which is ironic because I do push myself quite a bit, and in some cases more than a lot of other filmmakers that I know. But I still feel like I lacked on that front. I think that Paralysis has had an overall really quick turnaround from like writing to shooting to, it's not done yet in post, but like getting close to done in post. But I still feel like that timeline could have been a little bit shorter, or potentially one of my other films I wanted to get off the ground could have gone off the ground sooner, or that I could be directing more music videos or directing commercials if I just kind of pushed myself. I know that's easier said than done in most cases, but I do feel like that's a regret because there are certain things I want that I haven't pushed enough for, and if I had pushed, maybe I would be farther in my career, or Paralysis would have been done, or I would have made a different film. My third final regret is I wish I had gotten myself onto sets sooner. So I grew up in Kansas City, and there's not like a ton of stuff going on in Kansas City, but there is still production going on in Kansas City. And I wish that even in like my late years of high school, I had pursued trying to be a PA or getting on sets, at least visiting sets. I didn't really try very hard. And even when I came home from summers during college, there's only one summer I really tried to get on sets, and it did result in me getting on a Hy-Vee commercial for a day, but that was it. I didn't really get anything outside of that. And I do think Kansas City, at least at the time, can be very cliquey, and I was not there all the time, so it was hard for me to find my own way into there. I do wish I had tried harder. Even when I was in college, I went to Liberty University in Virginia, and there was, once again, not a lot of productions going on, but I only ever got on one set outside of a class project while at Liberty for a local commercial. And so like I wish I had pursued that more and pushed that harder, because I think that would have helped a lot of ways, because I think getting on set in any way, even if you're just being a PA and you want to be a director, producer, DP, being able to be on set and witness people in those roles is very important. And I've experienced that now in LA, as that's my moneymaker typically is actually just being on set in smaller roles. And it's been very beneficial to watch what I like and what I don't like, where I think people could have done better, and where I think they did great. And so that's the thing I wish I'd done sooner. But saying all this, I think it's also very important to say, while maybe these are like regrets, I don't actually regret them. I think it's bad to get too focused on regrets. I think that God has brought me to this point in my career for a very specific reason, and every step I made along the way was the correct step to make. I don't think that it's good to focus on like what could have been, or, you know, maybe I should have made this film or made this decision when I made this decision, because you can get so bogged down in that you just lose sight of what you're actually heading towards. So those are regrets, but honestly, some of them are more things I still need to work on now than regrets. It's more like trying to push myself to do these things more. But I also present them as regrets so that you guys can do better and improve upon them. The next question comes from Chloe Main, the sister to our producer and my girlfriend, Maddie. She asks, what was your this is it moment for choosing this career? So I kind of already answered that at the beginning in terms of starting filmmaking at 12 and stuff like that. But I want to kind of do a different time in my life where I realized, and it's less when this is my career and more like these are the types of films I want to make going forward. So let me take you back to around 2021, where I was showcasing my film Withdrawal for the first time. Now, Withdrawal was my thesis film that I made at Liberty University. Liberty University is a Christian university, and I made a film that they definitely probably didn't love that I made, which was a film primarily focused on drug addiction, primarily withdrawals associated with trying to get clean from a drug addiction. So it was a lot more intense than a lot of the student films, typically a lot of more profanities and stuff like that. And because of that, when my film was finally shown in the student showcase, it was towards the end of the showcase after a couple days, and one of the final films shown late at night, so all the kids were hopefully gone. It was funny leading up to it because other people's films would say like shit, and then like only say shit like once, and everyone would kind of chuckle because it's like a cuss word and it's just funny or whatever. And I remember being like, oh, I don't know how they're going to react when they get to my film, because there's a lot more than just that in there. We get to my film and we get to a particular scene where Kyle, played by Judah Fox, and Eddie, played by my brother Sam Harding, are kind of discussing why he wants to start getting clean. And Sam says to Judah in some form of, "You're an addict, Kyle, and no bitch is ever going to change that." And I remember when that happened, how the theater was absolutely silent. And there was no, like, you could hear a pin drop. No more laughing at the cuss words, and I was like, okay, either this is working or I have royally messed up. And when the film was over with, everyone stood up and clapped. I had so many of my fellow students come up and tell me how much they loved it. And I think what was the most important moment was this older gentleman saw my brother from across the room and came up to him and said, "Hey, I just want to tell you that I loved your performance. I had someone like you in my life at one point, and it was just a great representation of that." And he was like, "Well, here's the director." And he looked me in the eye and shook my hand and was like, "Thank you for making this film." It was really important because that was the most serious, down-to-earth film I had made. It was very raw, and I pulled a lot from my own personal experiences. From that, realized that's kind of the type of film I want to make. I want to make something that connects to people and is real, whether it's from my own experiences or from others that are close to me. And those are typically the type of films I make now. You see that a lot in the other short films I've done, the music videos I've done, and you'll see that a lot in Paralysis in certain ways, where they're more hard-hitting topics that come from some aspect of my life, regardless of the genre, because I think that can transcend genre and be its own thing. So that was kind of the this is it moment in terms of the type of filmmaker I wanted to become, kind of leaving behind this more amateur side of my filmmaking and entering this more professional side of my career. The next question actually comes from Chloe and Maddie's mother, Jennifer Main. And the question is, what is your ultimate career goal? This has changed over the years. It still kind of remains the same, but also I've, I guess, become more realistic with it. For years, and to an extent it is still the same, is to be an Academy Award winning director. I'd also be fine with screenwriter. I'd also be fine with Best Picture, producer. But directing is my main thing at the end of the day. And that would, I think, be the biggest honor for me. At one point in my life, I actually wanted to be the youngest Best Director winner. That is still possible. It is getting shorter and shorter as the years go on, but I believe it's somewhere around 32. So I'm only 26. So there's a chance it could still happen. I don't really think so anymore. Even at one point, actually, this is not happening unless, I don't know how this could change. I don't think it's going to. But I wanted to win Best Director at the 100th Oscars. So I'd be the 100th director to win Best Director and the youngest. That's in 2 years. So I don't think that's happening anymore. Sorry, college me. But as I've gotten older, my ultimate career goal has shifted to just be able to make films and provide for my family. This career is obviously a very turbulent one. It's not always a very good moneymaker career. So that's kind of my goal. I want to be able to do this for the rest of my life, but I want to be able to provide for my family. So if I can provide for my family and do this for the rest of my life, even if that means that no one knows who I am, I'm okay with that. As long as I can still make my films, I will be happy. And that is, at the end of the day, my ultimate goal. So far, I'm already working towards that goal and already living in that goal to a certain extent. And so hopefully I'll just be able to remain so. If the awards and the accolades come along with that, awesome, great, praise be to God. But that's not my ultimate goal anymore. Truly, it is just to be able to provide for my family and love my career as a filmmaker. The final question, I'm coming back to my sister, and she asked, what advice would you give to someone wanting to start a career in filmmaking? I have said this very often on Instagram, in other interviews I've done. Go make a film. Whether you want to be a DP, a director, a writer, a producer, whatever age you are, an actor, get your friends together and go make a film. I cannot stress enough how that's what you have to do. A lot of people sit around and they wait for someone else to come and give them an opportunity. Believe me, that is not going to happen to you. I'm sorry if you think that's going to happen. It is not. Unless your dad is a really big filmmaker already, it's just not going to happen. Or mom or sibling, it's just not going to happen. And you're really not a filmmaker until you go out and make a film. It doesn't matter how shitty the film is. All that matters is that you go out and you make it. Because the thing is, if you truly love this, that won't be your last film. It is just one of the many films you'll make. That's the biggest advice I give to film students, especially as they approach their thesis film. Because for a lot of students, that is their first film, their thesis film. And they put a lot of attention into it. And I cannot stress enough that if you like this career, if you love this career, it is not going to be your final film. You will make another one. So don't put your entire life into this one film. Just go out and make it. Like I said, I've been making films since I was 12 years old. There is, I'm not kidding you, probably close to hundreds of little shorts that I made with my friends between the ages of 12 to 21 that are horrible, horrible films. But I know for a fact that if I had not made those films, I would not be here talking to you all today. If I had not made Fat Man 14 years ago, almost 15, I would not be here today. Every single film I made, no matter how crappy they were, no matter how childish they were, they did teach me some lesson that has gotten me here. And it doesn't matter what age you are. You might also be 12 years old listening to this podcast, and for some reason, and you want to go make films. Go make a film. If you are 46 and you're listening to this podcast and you still haven't made a film, but you want to, go make a film. It doesn't have to be good. You don't have to go put it anywhere, but grab a camera. You have one in your pocket right now. Grab some friends and make something. Tell a story. That is the biggest advice I can tell you to get into this, because there's a lot more to it than you even realize. There's a lot of people that think they want to be a director, and then they direct, and they realize, I'm a horrible director. I hate directing. I actually want to do this. So get on set, switch roles around, figure out what it is you like and what you want to do within this industry, and it'll find you. You know, this found me. God brought this to me, and it's pushed me in life to chase this and focus on this. So I believe that's the same thing. Go out, make your film, make your mark, and grow. Make another one, make another one, make another one. They're going to start off really bad. I promise you that. But they're going to get better, and you will grow, and you will improve. So that's kind of the best advice I can give on how to start, is just start, pick up a camera, go make something. That's pretty much it for this episode. It was just kind of a way for you guys to meet me, lay out some advice and different things like that. I don't exactly know how our release schedule is going to be yet. I'm thinking it's going to be bi-weekly, but the first episode after this with my roommates will probably come out very quickly, this one, because this is kind of a general episode. I want you guys to understand how we're going to be swapping between formats of solo episodes and group episodes, so that one will probably come out relatively soon. Before we go, I do want to try out this thing where I recommend to you guys a movie to go watch in the theater and a movie to go watch at home. I don't know when this is coming out, so this might be a stupid recommendation, but honestly, if you haven't seen it yet or want to see it again, go watch Superman. I loved it. I know it's kind of mixed in some filmmaker circles, but I thought it was a great time. It's not the best film ever, but it's very hopeful, it's very happy, and it's action-packed. I love James Gunn, so go check it out. I think it's worth seeing in theaters. And then for at home, the movie that I've been circling around in my head a lot lately that I actually haven't seen in a long time is a film called Stranger Than Fiction. Stranger Than Fiction is a great film, especially if you want to be a screenwriter, or I think it's a great example of that. It's a Will Ferrell movie, but it's not a comedy. Quick little backstory on that. When I was in high school, me and my friends wanted to watch a Will Ferrell comedy. I was like 16. And we found Stranger Than Fiction. We're like, oh, this sounds great. Let's watch it. And then it ended up not being very funny at all and very serious, but we all fell in love with it. And it's one of my favorite films, and I really love it. Shout out to Noah Vandy, who has a tattoo of pancakes that is a reference to that movie. It's a really good film. Highly recommend it. I have no idea where it's streaming. I did not look before this episode, so Maddie's going to look for me real quick, but it could change by then. It's on Tubi, Pluto TV, and Amazon Prime. So Go check it out on any of those. Before we end our episode, I wanted to say thank you to our producers, Madison Main, Brett Gaffney, and Russ Greasy. Thank you guys for helping me and encouraging me to finally get this thing started. And shout out to Wonder View Venues for letting us come and record our episode here. Great space. Check it out on Instagram. But that's going to do it for today's episode. This has been Professional Amateur. I'm Jacob Harding. Keep creating, keep dreaming. Thanks, guys.